What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to be sharing an interview that I had with Patty, a gentleman that worked in partnership with a gentleman named Greg on Primetime Toys, which is a UK-based Transformer distributor. They are still in service, so if you're in that part of the world and you're looking for a retailer, give them a look. A lot more information about them will be coming very shortly. But real quick, couple housekeeping situations. One, the Unicron video from yesterday, the pre-orders are live. They will be live through March 11th, and then they are done. And I will never offer this as an order again. If I offer it in the future, it will be a show exclusive, like most of the stuff that I do is, because it's just a logistical nightmare, really. So it's always the case with this stuff that, like, a couple days after it ends, somebody says, can I get one? And unfortunately, a lot of times I can't help. So if you're interested in the Sherpa blanket, which is a cozier, more literal translation of the piece, or a woven blanket, which is more of a tapestry, fancier, heavier, but not as cozy representation of the piece, hit me up, bobbyskullface@gmail.com. We'll get it sorted. Portion of that goes to charity. I haven't chosen the charity yet this year. Halfway because one time I chose it super early in the year and then something super tragic ended up happening close to me and I wasn't able to kind of reallocate the funds and I felt bad about it. So I usually wait until fourth quarter now. Next. Cap. The gun barrel extends. I missed it. My bad. Just so you know, that was one of my criticisms, and it extends. So, criticism sorted there, that one. Next up, David. Someone informed me that the chest and kind of ab pieces do lock together a bit better. I think I say in the review that I think they probably do, but I'm not willing to really push stuff to its limits, especially with loaners anymore with the year and luck that I've been having this year with stuff breaking left and right. But somebody said it does. I can't comment on it, but that's what I've heard. The verses from last week, apparently there was some X-Transbots mixed up in labeling or my words. I don't know what's going on with me. I might have to have a neurological scan or something. I've been screwing up little stuff recently. The bloopers that are going to be coming to Patreon soon, I said something was purple that was red like 3 times. Anyway, I'm working on me. Otherwise, that thing still stands. There was the other thing that was with the drills. So I said that the New Age has drills and the Magic Square has drills. And that was a mix-up too. The New Age does not have drills. The New Age has light-up effects. So the points still stand, they still tie out in the same way. My heart was in the right place, my brain wasn't, which is usually the case with me, I'll have you know. One last little thing, I want to give a special shout out to TFUK, Transformers United Kingdom. They have a show coming, they have tickets that are now available. Please hit them up, they're a Facebook group if you're in the area. They invited me out there, they were actually very generous and gracious. They were going to take care of my wife and I. We couldn't make it happen, but we have already started planning to try to make it happen for next year. So I'm going to be there next year, I hope. I'm doing everything I can right now to make sure that that's the case, but that doesn't stop the fact that this year is their real launchpad show. They're putting a lot of heart into it, a lot of energy into it. If you're in that part of the world, the UK, etc., please hit them up. Tell them Scully sent you. Get yourself a ticket. They're good people. Shout out to Luke, all of them. They're very, very good people. And they're very community-based, and they have a lot of heart and passion for this stuff. I have no doubt that the show will go great. There's a lot of guests that they have coming in. I have no doubt that it's going to be fantastic. So look them up. And then lastly, this is an interview. This gentleman contacted me. His name is Patty, P-A-D-D-Y. He contacted me, shared a little bit about his story, and I was like, dude, I'd love to capture it. He was actually like, oh, it's not that interesting. No one will care. And I was like, man, I think people care. I care. I like to document this stuff. I think it's fascinating. He agreed, so I interviewed him. The interview in itself is about an hour long. The uncut interview, which is about an hour long, will be on Patreon at the top tier simultaneously as this video is released. So both will be available. The link to the Patreon is in the description. It's a pretty interesting talk. It's relatively tragic and sad, and some of the personal stuff that he goes into that I save for the Patreon is even more heart-wrenching. So check that out. He was very gracious with his time and his kind of personal. He puts his heart out there. It's a very emotional story in my opinion. So we're gonna get into it. It was a hard start, so to speak. So we're gonna jump right into it. The question was, how did this sort of happen? And his answer was, he got into Transformers by sort of looking at Transformers on YouTube of reviews and such, which led him to trying to buy a toy from Primetime Toys, which led him to meeting this guy Greg, who was running Primetime Toys, and they developed a friendship. So if the beginning of this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, that's a little bit of background information for it. Now with that, let's get started.
And I was watching YouTube one day and I saw an old Transformers episode at Rodimus Prime, and I was like, oh, I love Rodimus. Let me go and see if I can find a Rodimus Prime on YouTube. And of course, I found MP9. I actually messaged my previous business partner, the fellow I went into business with. He had one up for sale. And I'll never forget, I messaged him and I put the phone down, and by the time I'd walked away, away from the phone, I got a bing, and I thought, oh, that can't be him messaging me back already. And he messaged me back, and we started talking, and he introduced me to a wad of toys. And yeah, my entire life changed from that. And I started following into all the toys, and I went down the rabbit hole, dude.
What took you from that point into the next step?
I started buying quite a bit, and I got quite a good friendship with my business partner, Greg. And, I went up to see him a couple of times up in Scotland, and I was down in London, which is about, 700-mile trip, a couple of times, and we just got on really well. And then one evening I came home, I was on my way home on the train, and I was speaking to Greg, and I had a bad day at work, and I was having a moan. He said, I tell you what, call me back tomorrow about maybe what you can do. And I thought, that's odd. It's a strange thing for him to say, but okay, fine, we'll do that. I called him the next night, and he put the business plan together to me, and I agreed on the phone straight away. I just said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And I went part-time for a couple of months before I left my job, doing a little bit here and there and I just fell in love with it. I probably let my heart rule my head, but it was like a child in a sweet shop. I was desperate to do it. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to work with Greg. So I put my house up for sale and moved to Scotland and started working. But I think the one benefit I had was I had a job I knew I could come back to. It wasn't a case of I could just, walk away and never be able to go back to work again.
Right. What was the name of the company?
Primetime Toys.
Primetime Toys. I like it. And what were you guys selling?
Pretty much just selling Transformers. Anything. Third party, Hasbro, Takara, the odd KO, mostly third party.
Are there big distributors over there that you were competing against?
Yeah, you're competing against everybody. That's the thing. You do have a group of people that will only want to buy off you because the community is like that, where they just want to buy Primetime Toys. But at the end of the day, it's about how much you can get that toy for and
how quickly.
When you can get it. And I found that out really quickly in the business was the timing was as important as the price. And a lot of it is down to how much you can sell before somebody else gets that product and starts selling it, undercutting, etc., etc. We had a few issues with, I don't know if you guys be familiar with the Brexit issues we had in the UK where Britain has left the EU.
Yes.
And all tax issues and importation, it all changed, and it changed overnight. And that caused us absolute mayhem because then trying to get product into the country, lawfully, which is what we were obviously doing, it became very expensive and also time consuming as well, which was crippling us, where stuff could be available on other platforms earlier than we were able to get it into the UK to be able to distribute it. And that cost us quite a lot of custom, I think.
Did he already have these connections with the companies for selling by the time that you came on?
Yeah, he worked really, really hard at that in the beginning. That's the key point. How am I going to be able to get, my fans' toys, my ex-Transbots, stuff in enough quantity to be able to do that? And he had connections and worked on it and that kind of thing. But a lot of it is down to how much you can purchase.
Right.
And if you're in a position where you can buy, 500 or 1,000 of something, then you're going to be higher up the food chain than somebody who's buying 50 or 100. We were pretty much in that category. We were in the 50 to 100 category, saying, let's see if we can get 50 of these. And then, you have to work out how much it's going to actually cost you, and then postage, etc. And depending on where you're selling in the world as to how much it's going to cost you, etc., etc. And the markup on the toys, it just keeps on going down.
Right.
It's harder to make enough money off the toy you're selling without going into late tax mode, which is something that we really didn't want to do. We didn't want to be another guy selling on certain platforms for ridiculous amounts of money,
right?
Because there's enough of those people out there already, and really we want to be in a position where we could have a core group of people that would come to us and buy all their new toys off us.
By the time that you came on, how kind of successful was Greg already?
He was quite successful. It was more about the case of could we grow the business? That was the key. That was the plan. So I would come and we would quadruple what we were selling. That was the plan. And if we could do do that with the current markup we had, we could make enough of money. Now, we wouldn't become millionaires, but we could make enough money to make it work for both of us. Doing the job we loved, getting to work from home, getting to work together and selling toys, which was the dream, really.
How did it seem at first in terms of like trajectory for success?
That kind of stalled really quickly, but mostly because of the importation rules, because of the Brexit issues. I think it ended us before we started. Now, I'm not going to get into a political argument about, who's right or wrong, or was it right to leave EU or not. That's not my concern. My concern is simply financial. If Brexit hadn't happened, I would still be selling toys.
That's significant. And that's all mostly just import fees.
It's import fees, and it's the legality of what you're doing. The trouble is, there's probably people out there that just ignored Brexit and ignored the new rules and ignored the tax, etc., etc. And, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but that's not my game. My game is I'm going to do things properly.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, you've got to be. If you want to plan, this is going to be your future, It doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're selling toys or, you're working in a bank. You've got to be 100% kosher. You've got to be absolutely bang on with what you're doing, because otherwise the business plan is not going to succeed long term. And there was a lot of emotion attached to this, because I had moved country. I had lived in London 22 years, and I felt I was giving that up in order to follow the love of Transformers and the love of working in this business, which was probably one of my best friends. It was a dream,
And you never really got the moment to enjoy, like, before the fall. It's like you joined and you were automatically faced with these challenges.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was emotive. If we had sat down and thought about it logically, would we have done it? I'm not sure if the risk would have been enough, but the difficulty was nobody really knew how the new rules and laws were going to affect things. And it's like anything, until you're actually doing it, you can't really be sure, and that's where we were.
And how quickly do you think it was before you realized it wasn't working?
3 months.
Wow.
3 months, because we couldn't grow the business, Bobby. We weren't in a position where we could expand, and we were like sitting there thinking, well, we're going to make, X amount of money a month. It's barely enough to live on. And if I'm going to do this for another 12 months, I'm going to be in a bit of a money hole here, and it's just going to be difficult to get out of.
Where would you say the majority of your customers were based? Would you say Scotland? And
most of our customers are UK based. We had a few people in Ireland, and Ireland was actually one of our target areas that I had planned on trying to build, say, a group of people like Greg had in England. He had a group of people that he would sell to. My plan was to create that group in Ireland, but of course Ireland is not part of Britain. It's its own independent country. It's all of these things, logistics, and suddenly selling to Ireland became an absolute pain in the ass. Financially, it became almost a non-starter overnight. So that was a huge thing for us, because
they remain part of the EU.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So now, it's like I may as well have been selling to America, or France or somewhere. And it's, where do I start with that? And we had a core base of people in Ireland, and we were going to grow it. And it was my little Easter egg that we were going to build. And that disappeared. And that was heartbreaking. I think that was the hardest thing, was I wanted to be the Greg of Ireland, and it didn't happen. And it still breaks my heart that I think about it sometimes, and I just think, so close and yet so far,
Who would you say are the big shows in town in terms of the UK distributors?
Well, there's a few distributors in the UK. Kapow Toys, yeah, they're really good guys. Really, really good guys.
I've heard that. I was supposed to talk with them at one point, and it sort of seems to have fizzled out.
When I was selling, I still bought stuff off Kapow for my own personal collection, and having spent 7 months in the business, I have the highest respect for those guys.
Who else? Is there any other large entity, or not, maybe large is the wrong word, but perhaps established entity over there?
Omega Lock. But people go and buy, off Shozy quite a bit.
Right.
In TF Source, they'll buy. A lot of that will come down to tax and how much it's going to cost you to get that item into the country.
Right.
It's difficult. It's getting harder and harder for the little guy to keep their head above water. And the whole EU thing is only going to make things more difficult.
So around the 3-month mark, you realize that it's not working out. How does that conversation go?
That was one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had to have in my life,
I
Bobby.
bet.
It's not just business, but Greg's like my brother.
Right.
You know, I was close to tears talking to him. But he took it very well. He took it very, very well. He tried to persuade me to stay. And the next day we sat down and we had a chat. And the way I put it to him was, if you didn't know me and I didn't know you, what advice would you give me or you? Right. And he said, I'd probably say, go back.
Run.
Yeah. So you want me to stay, and I get that because we're brothers, you know, right. We're great. You know, I was sitting at their house for dinner 2 or 3 nights a week, you know. Right. I played with their kids, you know, I got on with his wife. I was at his family's house for Christmas and met his parents. Do you know what I mean? I become part of a family, which was incredible, an incredible experience. At my age, I just didn't think that was, you know, going to happen. And I was losing all of that. I had to give up all of that because it was too much of a financial risk. It breaks my heart, man. Because I still speak to Greg every day, every single day, you know, and sometimes he'll be talking to me when his kids are in the room and I'll hear their voices and it'll make me feel very emotional that, you know, I'm not there playing Monopoly. You know, it's one of those things. We tried it, you know, it didn't work. I think things were against us. I think if we had another 12 months, we might have been able to grow the business a little bit to the point where we wouldn't have to worry so much about the markup. And I'll give you an example because I know you like numbers and you like for instances, but the new MPRC comes out and we're going to buy 50 of those and we're going to make, let's say, for example, $5 or $7 on each one of those.
And that's a realistic number.
Yeah, and we have to sell all of those within a certain time frame before they become readily available on other platforms.
Right.
You know, so we almost have to be in a position where we have pre-orders. So we're going to come out and you're going to buy it off us, etc., etc. All we needed was for one of those deals to fail and we were finished. We were done. That was how tight things were, you know, and it could be anything as simple as, what if people don't like her? So the new toy would come out and I'd be looking at your video and I would be praying. I'd be like, please, Bobby, like this toy. If you don't like this toy, I'm stuffed. I just use that as an example, you know, and the issues we had with the chest, you know, we all know about the issues we had with the chest. And I was talking to Greg the second or third day after it was out and I said, you know what's going to happen, don't you? They're going to fix the chest and they're going to bring out a KO. And it's a case of how long will that be before it comes? And it started to stress me out where I was worrying about what toys were coming out because it had a huge financial impact on me.
Wow. We
need to sell these RCs before this KO with the good chest comes out because we know it's coming. We don't know, but we know. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And it becomes a stress where you're checking the internet and you're having a look around because you're thinking, I need to sell X amount of these toys before the thing happens.
Yep.
Another example of that is the MP planes, the new Starscream that came out, and then you've got Mission Space, and then you've got the KOs. It's a minefield for the little guys selling.
Right.
It's in the MP basket, and suddenly people are going, nah, I want Deformation Space. What am I going to do with all of those toys?
Yeah.
You know, if I don't sell them for exactly at least what I got them for, I can't pay my mortgage.
Right.
That's big. That's big issues there. And it was pretty much where I was thinking, I'm losing the joy out of what I'm doing because the stress is quite high. I don't have the money to fall back on. I didn't, you know, I needed this to work because if it didn't work, you know, I didn't have money. I know that sounds really simple, but it's not a case that I was doing it part-time. This was my job now. This is what I did for a living. It just made things quite stressful. You know, there were weeks where I didn't even pick a toy up out of my personal collection. That upset me quite a bit.
So that was going to be my next question for you is how do you feel about Transformers now after going through this emotional roller coaster for the past, you know, half a year?
I am back in love with toys now.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
In love with toys because it's the stress is gone. All I have is regret. That's all I've got, you know, but not about the toys. It's not about that. I have regret, you know, I don't live in Scotland anymore. I've got regret that I'm not next door to Greg anymore. I've lost that emotional bond. That's what I've got regret for. I can't blame the toys because it didn't work. That'd be ridiculous.
Right.
You know, and I've started buying toys again. I'm sitting in a room full of boxes.
Now, how is he doing? How is Greg doing with Primetime Toys?
Greg's okay. Greg is doing it part-time.
Okay.
He's not doing full-time. It's still going. How long that will be, I really don't know. Because it's like anything, Bobby. It all comes down to time value of money.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And you're in a position where you need to be making enough money per hour for the work that you're doing. And I was finding that with two of us, we weren't. You know, the hours you have to put in the marketing, in the packaging. Oh my God, Bobby, packaging, it takes so long. Just insane. You get a toy, you've got to wrap it, you got to box it, you got to make sure it's tight, you got to get your envelopes, you got to print them out, you know, you got to get to the post office. It all takes time. It all comes down to how many minutes a day it takes me to get this toy to where it needs to be. You know, you're selling stuff and you got to make sure that the right toy goes to the right guy.
Yep.
Because it costs you that sale if it doesn't. And that leads me to another issue that we had, and the stress that I had personally was I'm not delivering these toys myself. I have to rely on couriers, on post depots, on transportation, and that was such a stress. I would lie in bed at night after selling, say, a big toy like maybe a Devastator, you know, and like you had a lot of money tied up in those. So it wasn't the fact that you'd lose the sale. It was, what if you lost the toy? And that was a huge issue because we had a couple of times where we had stuff lost and it could knock you back for an entire month. And I found that a huge stress.
You rely on a lot of different moving pieces selling toys.
Yeah.
You know, you're relying on the carriers. You're relying on honest business with your customers. You know what I mean?
It was so much stress and the markup was so tight. It was just, there's too much that can go wrong too easily in order for me not to be able to put food on the table. And I was like, do you know what? We have to call this. And calling it after 3 months, it actually took another 4 months for me to move and go back to my old job and purchase a property and that, which probably isn't a long time, really. It probably isn't, but it felt it because the pressure was on.
Yeah, what a rough experience, man.
Yes and no, because, you know, I got the opportunity to sell toys for a living.
Yeah.
You know, they got to do that for 7 months, but, you know, some people will never get that joy in their entire life. And the amount of people I met, you know, and the contacts I have and the friends I've made, you know, I get to speak to you, and I've got Greg, you know, I've got my own YouTube channel. It's not exactly massive, but
that's okay. Go ahead and say what it is. What is it?
We've got one. It's called Fingers on Plastic.
Fingers on Plastic on the old YouTube.
Plastic and that kind of thing. And, you know, it's such an honor to be part of something. You know, It's not massive, but it becomes a friendship zone and you meet people out of it and, you know, people get to know you and, you know, it's a real honor. And I'm so fortunate. Yeah, the idea failed, but I've had a life experience that some people would never have. And I was part of a family. There's so many positives, Bobby, that it was well worth it. If you had said to me, would I do it again? Yeah, you know, I would do it again.
If nothing else, you've learned that if things can change overnight.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe next time we'll have more luck and it'll actually change for the better. Who knows?
Right. Patty, I want to thank you for coming on and telling your story. Do me a favor, shout out Greg's store one more time.
It's primetimetoys.co.uk.
And shout out your YouTube channel one more time.
Fingers on Plastic.
All right. I love to hear it. And thanks again, man. It's an interesting story because it's uniquely different from the other rises and falls that of stories I've heard. All right, I'm going to check us out of here.
And that's that. Once again, I want to thank Patty. I want to shout out to Fingers on Plastic. Shout out to Primetime Toys. Check them out. This year's been pretty strong so far, content-wise. I think even Sit Down Saturday has been pretty strong. Like, some really good stuff we've been able to get out so far. We're only 2 months in. So, I got some more stuff planned, obviously. Hopefully, I can get to a past, present, and future next week if nothing sort of ground-shaking comes out. So, yeah, don't forget the Unicron blankets. Don't forget to check out my TFUK, folks. And I'll be back Monday with something that I break. How about them apples? Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.